So, hi guys, welcome to the brand new episode of Voice It. This is Sona from Pi Team, and today we have Nikita Maheshwari, who is the co founder of Technobill Cover Private Limited, the Telebesta.com, and she is also the co founder of Tatkalori Private Limited. She has been honored with State and National Entrepreneurship Awards, the State Award for Gujarat for the year 2019 for her exemplary performance on entrepreneurship domain. Let's hear Ms. Nikita Maheshwari. Ma'am, hello.
Hi.
Hope you are doing well.
I am.
Yeah, without any delay, we can move on to the questions.
Sure.
So, from a lawyer who finds the loopholes to twist a case to an entrepreneur who takes up risk, one fine morning this doesn't happen. Then how this has been initiated and how this transformation and what was the dragging force that made you to this?
All right. So I was uh, I was 22 years when I started my journey as an entrepreneur back in 2015. So primarily back in 2012, uh, it was my third year, and I realized that law is something that doesn't interest me much. How I did realize that was so in by so we gave CLAT in 2010, and through CLAT we get an all India rank, and then we get through these 11 law schools that are there across the country. I think it's 16 now. Back then it was 11. So we get through them, and I got through Gujarat National Law University, which is one of the premier universities in the country. And when I got through that, I was very happy, of course. However, by my third year, there were two, three things which I started realizing about myself. So in general, I'm a very introspective person, and I keep on asking questions to myself. So what am I supposed to do? How is it supposed to be? Why am I, interested towards this? If this is this, then what am I going to do? So in 2012, I started getting involved in a lot of um, college activities. I was interested more in managing conferences than studying law. So that was one thing that I figured out, that I'm in particular very much interested in general management. The second thing that I did realize was that I like to be a lead. I would like and I would prefer to be a leader from the very beginning itself. And that is exactly why I realized that job is something that I'll not be able to do. Uh, and Fortunately or unfortunately, I had that opportunity uh, thanks to my parents. They were extremely supportive about it. And I wanted to pursue masters as well. So I was very clear that I'm going to pursue masters, be it in law or I'll do an MBA. So some things were very clear about me, that I'll do a graduate degree and then I'll do a post graduation degree, and I was very clear about it from the very beginning. So post that, the third thing that happened, which actually led me to deciding that I will not pursue law, was finding and understanding that I started dating this guy who was the topper of our batch, and I really wanted to spend my life with him. And I always believed in this thing that two people from the same, fraternity should not be together. It leads to a lot of problems and so on and so forth. So because it all turned out happy and donkey hoary and awesomeness, um, we decided, it sounds like a brilliant story right now, but my inclinations towards management, the fact that I cannot do a job, and the third fact that I fell in love with someone from the same fraternity, really pushed me through, and I decided that okay, I'll pursue my masters in in entrepreneurship, and not I'll not go for an LLM. Doing that, I the first, third, fourth year went by, and in fifth year I started preparing. In the fifth year, I had to decide what I had to pursue, like what division of management did I have to pursue? Was it marketing? Was it entrepreneurship? Was it finance? Or so on and so forth. It was then I started studying about a lot of management schools, and that's when I realized that, all right, uh, if I go to other schools, there'll be a lot of different disciplines that I'll have to learn, and I will not be able to do what I want to do. So I gave only two exams, which was MICA and EDI, which is Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India. And luckily I got through both. However, I chose EDI because it made sense and it gave me a lot of option to explore and pursue entrepreneurship as a whole. And it would give me that bandwidth to pursue something I really liked. And so this was the journey that actually led me to pursuing entrepreneurship. The day I got into EDI, I was, honestly speaking, I had no idea what am I supposed to do, what is going to be my new startup. It was till March of 2015, and it was then the day I had my offer letter from EDI. I went ahead and surprised my dad, who was sitting in Morbi at that point in time, and that's when my first idea struck to me. So the journey of someone who pursued law to someone who went on to pursue management was primarily because I introspected a lot and tried understanding what I really like and what I don't like, and what is the thing that I'd be happy pursuing. So when you do that, you tend to come to conclusions when you start realizing your own strengths. And that's been the simple journey from a lawyer to a management and an entrepreneur.
So you are just finding the essence of joy in what you are doing, right?
Oh yes, I absolutely love. So generally, most of the people pursue entrepreneurship because they like taking breaks at their own terms. I am someone who likes pursuing entrepreneurship because she likes a lot of challenges. I am a workaholic by my nature, right? It's my character that I love working. If I don't work for 4 days, like when I had COVID, I was not able to work for roughly 20 days, and I had a lot of anxieties that I'm not able to work. I'm not able to work. And believe me, I got infected on 16 July, and 5th August I was back in office because I could not take not working, or
So
not being there. So that's exactly how much I love what I do. It's overwhelming a lot of times. I'm not denying that, and it's very frustrating also. And there are points where you're like, why did I take this up? What was the need? What was the need to do this to yourself, Nikita? But I think at the end of the day, I am happy doing what I do, and I absolutely love doing what I do. And there has been immense amount of learnings that I've had, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have learned those things had it not been for my journey. And yes, you're very right. The essence is to find joy in what you're doing. Why would you work if you're not having fun doing it? Like, I
yes,
know.
you are right, ma'am.
I do not understand that concept. Uh, if you don't enjoy doing what you're doing, it's eventually going to frustrate you, right? Uh,
Yeah.
you're going to be like, why the hell am I doing this? Obviously, after a point, you earn so much money that it doesn't really bother you that much. Oh, money is a big criteria. Most of the people whom I or the world perceives to be successful is because they love doing what they're doing. They have this affinity and love towards their job, or they just don't give up, because that's the power of not giving up comes from, right? uh,
Yeah.
when you find joy, right? So yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
that's it.
Then let's move on to the second question. So generally, the mindset of female entrepreneurs is to divert into the so-called girly things. So, but there also you had opted for another unusual domain, that is the construction materials supply management sector. Then why do you made to opt this domain, and what was the reason just to opt this?
Okay, so first, I I'll just say this. I'm sorry, but it's not girly to not go into, to pursue something in construction, right?
Yeah.
Or logistics as a domain. Um, so I think, okay, this is politically correct, but I'm going to say it because a lot of people are going to hear this out, and I want them to know that girls can pursue whatever they want. It's
Yeah.
just that we are raised in a way, and we're told that no, because you'll have to manage household, pursue something which is less demanding, right?
Yes.
That's exactly why girls go ahead to pursue something a little bit lighter on terms of in terms of I think
Risk.
bandwidth or operations orientation, and because it's a fight every day if you go into something as tough as logistics and building and construction industry. So I agree to that, and I understand that, but if a girl puts her mind into doing something, I think she can do anything. That's why I think women make a brilliant homemaker, right?
Yes.
They're an excellent manager by birth. They're just, it's natural to us. It's like strength is natural to men. Being an excellent manager is a natural to women. All right. Keeping that aside, why did I went on to pursue logistics? So Tatkal Lorry Private Limited and Tile Bazaar. Let me just give a brief about both of these companies and how did I start these. So back in 2015, when I was visiting my father in Morbi. So Morbi is this really small town in Gujarat, which is spread in a periphery of 50 kilometers, and it has 90% production of tiles in the country. And believe it or not, India is the second largest tiles producer in the world. Right? Can you imagine the amount of production? That's roughly around to 70,000 crore of market that we're talking about as of right now during COVID, because the production has fallen. It is more than that. Okay, so the second thing that happens here is, so I went to surprise my dad in Morbi, and so my father is a brand consultant in the ceramic tiles industry, and hence tiles is something I understood after law, because I've grown up around tiles. And so I always say this, ki it's not necessary for you to jump into something absolutely different than what you've been pursuing. It can also be something that you've seen all your life. So tiles was something that I have seen all my life. My father is ex Somani. So we used to go to the Somani production plants. By we, I mean me and my brother, who's also my co-founder. So we used to go to these plants. So that is something we actually understood and connected to, right? And hence the day we went to surprise my father in Morbi, and I realized ki, all right, this small periphery holds so much production value, and why is this not being sold online? And like an idiot that I was, uh, as an entrepreneur, I saw it as an opportunity that, all right, tiles in huge production, why is this not sold online? And I said, yes, we will make Flipkart of tiles. And that's how started, with Tile Bazaar being a B2C model, uh, which led to a lot of failures and then turning into a B2B model, which again failed eventually, because to run a Flipkart, you need an e-cart or a delivery which delivers tiles or your products timely. And hence, because there was no one in the market like that who could deliver just one or two pieces or really small amount of tiles across the country, because tile is not like a t-shirt. The minimum investment that you're looking at is 5,000 to 10,000 rupees, even if you're doing a small bathroom, right? And hence it's not a small investment, hence it cannot be bought online, hence it is not being sold online, um, because it's not a small investment. Secondly, they're so fragile and brittle that even just a one bump it breaks, and if the corners of tiles break, or uh, if uh, there's a crack in between, uh, it's useless. The tile is useless, and your entire amount of investment is just gone to dungeons. So That is exactly why probably there was no one, someone as E-Cart, who delivers smaller quantities of tiles. And so Tile Bazaar failed miserably. Tile Bazaar today runs as an offline store in Ahmedabad and Bangalore only. Then that is exactly what happened in 2016 March. We realized that this is failing. That is me and my brother, who's also my co-founder. Uh, I was 22 back then, and he was 17, and we were really young and we had no experience whatsoever. He was first starting, preparing for his engineering, and I was in my MBA college studying and managing this company. It was just, the failure was overwhelming. And when we failed and we realized that we failed, uh, uh, there were two options that we had: to cry and crib about it, or to figure out why we failed. We took the second option. We said, no, we're not going to cry and crib about it. We're not those people. We'll just go and we'll figure out why we failed. On figuring out why we failed, we realized that we primarily failed because we did not do extensive research, and we kept on failing from 2015 to 16 because we were not good at research. We used to find a problem, research about it, and do it, finish that's it. And we never used to look, as you never had a holistic perspective to a problem. Say if we figured out ki, all right, the customers cannot buy, we went to builders, will you buy this, will you buy that, and we'll say yes, and then we'd never talk to them or ask them what is their problem. We assumed their problems on our own, which is a terrible mistake that an entrepreneur can do. Is assuming things on their own to understand ki, oh, okay, no, I think this is the problem and I think this is the solution. No, that's a wrong way. That is absolutely wrong. We have to talk to the customers, someone who is actually utilizing that. We have to ask them, ki, boss, this, what is your problem and what would you like a solution to it, right? What would be your idea to it? What is it that you're looking for? Or doing that, uh, you realize and you get more clarity. And that's exactly what we did for Tatkalori. This time we went and spoke to 500 plus dealers and asked them, what is your problem? How can we resolve it? And that's how we came up with the idea of Tatkalori. Tatkalori basically and primarily is a niche logistics and supply chain management company in the area of building and construction material. We specialize in movement of first mile and last mile delivery of tiles, sanitary, plywood, laminates. We are geographically located in Morbi, which is the hub of production, and we're right now running in 13 cities. We have 15 plus crore turnover a year for consecutively 4 years, and we have been growing constantly. And yeah, so that's what the Car Lorry does. It connects this disconnected and MSME industry to reaching their full potentials, using the rickshaw pullers or drivers and bringing them together. So we have 250 plus associates in terms of truck drivers and 50 plus associates in terms of tempo rickshaws and lorry pullers. So they work with us. They have in positive income and so on and so forth. So that's how I decided to go into uh, logistics and building and construction industry, because it was a series of events, and obviously it did not stop me from of course, when I decided to pursue something like this, my parents and everyone was extremely supportive about it, that all right, pursue. And I have been absolutely shameless about using my father's contacts. I call myself a nepo kid because, believe it or not, I extended uh, my queries to my father, and he helped me out figuring those out. So it is assumed that we don't have to ask for help, but entrepreneurs should ask for help. Like, we don't know everything, especially I was dumb, stupid, and young and I was 22, and my brother was 7, and we had absolutely no knowledge. We just had an idea, and if you just have an idea, it's never going to be into a business, because you need to go to find the right partners. Imagine a lawyer entering into a logistics industry. It's a drastic change. I work with extremely professional people. I work with judges. I work with naval officers, and then suddenly I'm asked to work with laborers and truck drivers who are not even literate a lot of times. They can't even write. It's difficult. It's a very different domain, and that takes a lot of uh, energy and a change in mindset that you're looking at. Someone who used to work entirely on mails had to work with people with paper and pen or designs even to make them understand. So yeah, I was shameless and I went ahead and I asked my father that I need partners for this because I'm not failing this business again. And so I went up to my dad and asked him, I need partners from this domain. These are my criterias. Would you help me find them? And luckily, we found our partners. And that's how I formed my team. So I was able to become a lawyer, from a lawyer to a logistician, because I decided to ask for help. There was a series of events. I never gave up. Uh, and I chose this because tiles was something I knew, but then obviously I didn't end up doing that. I became a logistician, which is absolutely new for our entire goddamn family. Nobody is into this. And so it was just my failures that led me to pursue Tatkal Lorry as a company. Yeah, I hope this answers. If not, please ask me again anything I missed.
Yeah, okay, ma'am. So it was kind of exploring and
Very true.
experimenting
Yes,
at the same
absolutely,
time, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. Then we'll move on to the next question. So, as I mentioned on the beginning, you had been honored with the National and State Entrepreneurship Awards. Is it like an unexpected award, or it is the effort that become a reward?
So it was unexpected. Let's be honest. Both of the awards were really, really unexpected. I was working. I love working, and I kept on working. And I was for the state award. I was actually recommended by my college, Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India. For that, I was recommended to the state government, especially the I think education division of the government. And so Gujarat government education department has started this award. It's called Student Startup Prashansha Award, which is basically an entrepreneurship award for all the students who went ahead to pursue entrepreneurship and started their own business, are doing well. So I did not expect that at all. I was actually taken aback. I applied because college asked me to, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. Why not? What's the harm? And I think 2 days before they texted me, and I was not prepared. I literally had to just run to shopping for something that I could wear for the award ceremony. So that's how unexpected it was that I think 6th July I got the award, and 4th July evening I got a mail. "Okay, Nikita, you're supposed to be present for the award ceremony, which is in Gandhinagar. I live in Ahmedabad, so which was near Bhatia." So I was like, okay. And then but yeah, it felt so good being appreciated for all the hard work, because it was tough. It went from 2015 to 17. I was managing my college studies, and then failure of one startup, starting another company, making sure Tile Bazaar is also fine while going. So there was a lot of transition, especially the second year, 16 to 17 was a bit more tough because it was the second year. Plus there was I was managing two companies, and I was inexperienced. I was young, stupid, and dumb. And but yeah, I had a lot of grit. A lot of grit. I just don't give up. I'm not that person. So that's a student startup award, and then I think July we got this, and November 9th we got the national award. Again, there a lot of people recommended me that Nikita should file for the awards, and I did, and it was the most it was such a beautiful moment for me. And there's a very short story about it. The day I got my letter from the Ministry of Skills and Development, so I have this habit of listening to music while I work. that time Mission Mangal had come out, and the song that was playing on my laptop was Sabashia. And I saw that letter and I had tears in my eyes because I never thought that I am this deserving, or I could get something like this. But the honor is exceptional. The feeling is exceptional of for being so young and being rewarded for something like this consecutively in a span of 6 months is it's excellent. The feeling is so good. There's only one thing I never wanted. Ki, all right, I should get awards. I was recommended. I went ahead with it, but uh, it's a beautiful feeling. Getting acknowledged for all the hard work that you're doing and trying to work in such a tough industry. Uh, these are like moments where you feel ki, all right, all the
Yeah,
sleepless nights were worth it. Worth
yeah,
it. Every single thing was worth it. Every single, crying, every single fight, every single thing was worth it. All the failures were worth it. So
yeah.
yeah,
You're out of words when you are saying this proud moments, right?
I am speechless because it was so good. And I
Yeah,
did not expect that. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll move on.
Hmm.
Then, always igniting someone with a topic on which you are expertised is like helping someone who had fallen into a hall of darkness. So,
Hmm.
being a business research mentor, what will be your tips for the ones who are initiating this entrepreneurship domain?
All right. So I have so many tips for you guys.
Yeah, yeah,
And
please tell me.
so I think as a business research speaker, so I was taught research by this amazing guy, Vivek Sinha. He was the one who actually turned around my perspective as to how to look at things. uh, uh, so he taught me how do you calculate the consumption patterns and the production patterns, and how do you correlate that to figure out what is it that you're entering into. The second thing, so this is something that I'm going to tell why research is really important in formulating a product, is primarily because you should not create something that you feel the world wants. Create something that the world actually wants. It is very very tough because you have to, if you're talking about a business to consumer a product, you'll roughly have to talk to 1,000 people in different demographics. Something that works in Gujarat might not work in Kerala,
Yeah,
or it might work in a different way, right? The positioning has to be different, and that is what research gets out of. Do you guys fill those survey forms in different things like on Swiggy or Uber? They try and understand your behavior and pattern, and that's why primary basic research with your customers is very important. So if you're talking about business to consumer, that is B2C, which is something like Swiggy, Food Panda. Consumer is the end consumer I'm talking about, right? And therein you'll have to speak to at least 1,000 people on different levels in different cities on different demographics. And it's a very excruciating process, and it takes a lot of time as well. So roughly you should invest 6 months in your hypothesis before investing all the money that you have, which is what I didn't do for Tile Bazaar, and I should have done. I wouldn't have wasted so much time, energy, and money in it, and I would have prepared a product that the you know industry actually wants, or I would have realized that the industry is not ready for this product right now. The second thing that is you do in business to business is, again, you go and talk to customers, but you can roughly narrow it down to 500 customers who are business to business, and uh, and then you speak to them, and so keep your questionnaires for when you go to business to business. Keep your questionnaires short, 5 to 6 questions, trying to get the gist out of it. Make pie charts so you'll get beautiful data analytics from it. And I think that's the beauty of creating a product or a service, is you will be able to. That's my primary you know take away from all my failures is, speak to your customers, talk to them. prepare a product or a service that they want, not what you like. Don't do that. It's pointless. uh, the second thing that I'll tell you is, don't go about funding just because you have an idea. Nobody's going to fund you because you just have an idea. Go ahead, do. The very simple rule is, if you're not going to invest in your own idea, nobody else is. Please don't even go and ask for funding. If you cannot spend your own money on something that you have built, why are you expecting someone else to put their money on you, right? Why? And that's the first bet as an entrepreneur. You have to take that. All right, I'm going to try this. If this works out, beautiful. If it doesn't, it's okay. I'll figure out why it didn't work out. The third thing that I'm going to tell you is, don't lose hope. Hope and grit are the key ingredients to bouncing back from every failure that you have. You'll have setbacks, you'll fail daily. uh, in research also, I'm telling you, you will fail daily. So don't feel bad about it, okay? Learn to hear no, learn to get rejected. Don't take it on an ego. It's not personal. They just don't want the product right now. They don't need it. You don't have the, if you think you have to convince them to buy your product, that means there is something wrong, right? It should come from them ki, I have this problem, this is the solution that I want, right? This the third thing that will come on in is, whichever industry, fourth thing, sorry, whichever industry you go in, uh, read about its competitors. It's very important. Read about the competitors and read about their founders, so you know what is the pedigree that you're stepping up against, what is their revenue, how is it that you are different from already something that is already existing in the market. uh, and do an extensive research about your competitors. So when I started Tatkal, I just didn't read about Rivigo or Shadow Fox or Snowman. I went ahead to study more about Gati VRL as well, or VTrans for that matter, because even if they're traditional businesses, they are successful, right? They're running their business for almost 25 years. So you will get to learn, why are they so efficient, what are their processes, so on and so forth. Now when you start reading that, you'll also realize the standard operating procedures that different companies follow. When you do that, you'll realize, if everything is in place, what are the operating procedures that you'd need to do. So when you do research, you'll also realize, how am I going to get my production value, and how am I going to get customer acquisition, and then how am I going to sell this product, and how. So there's actually going to be an in-depth analysis about how you're going to go to the market and launch yourself. And that is where procedures come in place, right? आपने platform बना दिया, but then if nobody's going to come to your platform, it's pointless. So there has to be a complete operational discussion about how things are going to move. It just cannot happen, all right, we did this and then this is out. No, it takes maybe a week to prepare all this, but do that because it's that important. And read about all the industries or the companies that are already there, and what are the procedures that they use. So if you do this an extensive research about competition and procedures and product and consumer, I think that gives you a very holistic view. It also gives you an insight on the ancillary services or the ancillary industries, which sometimes, like, if I would have researched extensively, I would have realized then and there that there is no ancillary service, and that is what led to my failure. I should have done that. I did not do that. However, that's where how I figured out the concept of Tatkal Lorry. And so point me, you can and you should do all of this, to take a holistic approach and then jump. Even if it takes 6 months, take that. It's a better bet than infusing all your money at one point in one go. Take that bet, and then once you're ready with something like this, obviously you would have invested so much time. You'll have confidence to invest your smaller amounts of money, and if you get traction and if you get revenue, you're good to go raise funds. But that's your choice. I didn't go ahead for fundraising. I am a bootstrap startup, and yeah, so that's about me. And those
Yeah.
are the things that you should look and do while when you decide to jump into doing business.
Yeah, ma'am, those tips were just mind blowing, and I think it will be helpful for someone who just have initiating their entrepreneurship domain. Then we'll proceeding with how the pandemic situation have you made you crooked, or like what was the strategy that you had created to cope up with the present situation?
All right, so there were so many things that this pandemic has actually taught me. And this is like a long winter that all of us are going through, and especially a startup who was supposed to break even this year is now fighting to survive this year. Um, so pandemic situation has affected us a lot, especially because we're not a full stacked logistics company. We're a niche, and we work in an industry which is probably the worst affected, that is real estate industry. And I am a part of tiles and sanitary movement, right? And so we are terribly affected by it, of course. And May and June were very difficult. However, we picked up in again July. The key things that we did do and make sure was the fact that we started focusing more on the outcomes and not more of an output. So someone might be working with you, your employee would be working for say 8 to 9 hours, but if the outcome is not the way you want it, uh, it's going to hamper it. The outcome will also help you determine your charges and costings, which leads me to the second point that you should be doing is you should make things target based. So I did that in my organization. I made things target based, and that's when you'll actually figure out, and you'll have a segregation of your employees. Some will leave, like a lot of them walked out on us and said we'll not work target based, so they left. So obviously I did not throw them out, but that helped me in reducing costs. So I think all of us, all the entrepreneurs have fought hard to reduce all the unnecessary costs that they used to make. Um, the second thing that we had to maintain social distancing, because when you're an operation heavy company, you have to be present on site, or you have to be present in offices. So there's a very different way in which we work than we used to work, uh, with all the proper uh, necessity and the ppe kits and the mask and sanitizer. So that's it. The third thing that has helped me was first being looking more at the outcome, second being looking more at uh, the how people are going to cope up with this, because we are human intensive and operation intensive industry. The third that has helped me is making sure that I survive this day by day. Things that I never looked into till now, I take accounts of every single thing. This is my advice to everyone actually. If you don't know accounts, learn how to deal with numbers, because that is going to what is going to make you an entrepreneur, and it's going to set you apart, right? The fourth thing that I'm going to tell you is don't kick out people. Those are the people who has helped you survive for these 3 years. I know you have to reduce cost, but you can talk to them. You can tell them, "Ki boss, this is how we're going to do." So what I did in my organization was I relinquished my salaries, and I requested all the staff who said to cope up with us and to understand that we will repay them. We just require their amount right now to make sure our working capital goes on, and we'll keep on paying them bits by bits and pieces by pieces. We will pay them, and obviously the directors have relinquished their own salaries right now to survive the pandemic. Uh, and this pandemic has made sure that we learn and hear things that we would have never seen otherwise. Um, so, being such a small setup, going through something like this has actually changed my viewpoint as to what all a CEO has to do. CEO is not just there to make strategizing or growth things. You also have to look at costing and is the outcome perfect. It's you have to set benchmarks on each outcome that's going to be in a period of time. There has to be timelines. There has to be review meetings. There has to be leadership calls here. There has to be things where you will have to teach your own employees as to why they're supposed to do. The whys in the organization has to be answered by the leader themselves. If you're not answering them, there's not going to be proper outcome. uh, treat your employees as your families. They're the ones who build it, not you. You sit on your desk, you just order, and if you're not taking care of those employees, it's going to be tough. It takes a village to build something, and don't ever be shy to acknowledge and appreciate those people who has worked with you. Use the anti-community theory, anti-CEO theory, I'm sorry, not anti-community, anti-CEO theory, to survive this pandemic, and believe me, it brings results. I've seen it, and I've seen it, and there's no replacement to that. So yeah, so the primary thing is surviving this year, and maybe we'll be better next year with everything, with all the systems. And there is absolutely no replacement to systems in the place. You have to have systems. You need to have hierarchy, and not it can be flat hierarchy, but there still needs to be hierarchy. Uh, Reduce unnecessary costs wherever you can. Whatever you can relinquish as an entrepreneur, relinquish that. uh, so yeah, that's those are the things that has helped me survive this pandemic.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. It was really nice to hear from you, like whether about the tips and that business strategicals on the research and also everything. And I think this will be helpful for all the ones who hear this. And thank you, ma'am, for your valuable time.
Bye guys, it was nice speaking with you.
Let's hope for everything back to be normal.
Yes.
And thank you, everyone. This is Sona signing off.